What's going on, everybody? So in this section, we are going to be talking about the LinkedIn social selling overview. It's going to be a high-level strategy of how we're going to use social selling on LinkedIn so that you can start getting more of your prospects interested, and hopefully you guys can book more meetings and close more deals. So we're going to go over all the strategies when it comes to using LinkedIn, and then later on in the course we're going to dive into the tactics, but I want you to get a strong overview of how everything works before we get started. All right, so let's go ahead and dive right in, right? So the goal of LinkedIn social selling, as they call it, is to supplement your sales prospecting activities, whether that's cold email, cold calling, and LinkedIn messages, okay? So you have to understand that when it comes to social selling, it's not like you can just post, a bunch of articles and videos and hope that people want to buy from you just from that. Think of it as a supplement. It does not replace any outbound activity, right? So you still have to cold email, you still have to cold call, and you still have to do LinkedIn messages, right? You have to reach out to people to generate that meeting. However, people like familiarity. So by posting on social media, especially on LinkedIn, people kind of get an idea of who you are, and your conversion rates for all the different outbound activities should be higher because you're not a total stranger. So when we refer to LinkedIn social selling, we are specifically talking about creating and posting content on LinkedIn your prospects can potentially see, okay? So it's like creating content, putting it on LinkedIn, and people who follow you on LinkedIn or connected with you, or LinkedIn might even show your content to new prospects, they're gonna see it and you can start conversations. And you're basically looking to build a brand and familiarity with your prospects by positioning yourself as a thought leader in your space. Now, when I say thought leader, you don't necessarily have to go viral, right? You do not. You do not have to be a LinkedIn quote unquote influencer. Essentially, you just need to be thought as somebody who knows your space. You don't have to go viral. You could get a couple likes on your post, and if you get the right people seeing your post, that's really what counts, okay? So I'm not really trying to get you to, 100,000, 200,000 followers on LinkedIn. I think that's unnecessary, especially if you are doing sales and business development, right? Because you also find that a lot of CEOs who do like tech companies and marketing agencies, they are not huge on LinkedIn. You don't have to be like this LinkedIn influencer. Instead, you just want to post content that, the right people will see. And, when you reach out to them, they kind of are already familiar with you, okay? So, when it comes to LinkedIn lead generation, right, there's two routes to think about this. There's going to be inbound and there's going to be outbound. So inbound essentially happens when, let's say you post content, people see it and they're like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Let me reach out to Patrick to see, or if I want to learn more, right? So they come to you. That's inbound. Outbound is essentially when you're reaching out to the person and they don't know who you are, right? So you can do inbound and outbound. And we're going to show you like a combination of the both, okay? Because you cannot rely solely on inbound leads because most likely you're not going to go viral. You're not going to have hundreds of thousands of followers as a regular salesperson, right? You're just not. You could, but it's very low chance. So you have to combine these two together, and really you're relying on your outbound sales strategy and supplementing the effectiveness of it with your inbound. And I'll show you what I mean. So generating inbound leads, right? So let's say, this is an example. I posted a piece of content onto LinkedIn, and essentially it's, if I click on see more, it's going to be a long form post where I'm basically just talking about cold calling, how it's hard. And actually it's not really that hard if you have the right attitude. It kind of tells a story, right? And obviously people are going to comment it. It's got 81 likes in the last 2 days, 4 comments. And so, I think about a few thousand people actually saw this post. It is not showing on the screenshot, but a few thousand people actually saw it. So 81 people liked, a few thousand people saw. So, okay, so here's basically what I'm saying. So let's say you create a piece of content like I did. And LinkedIn, when you post it on LinkedIn, they're going to share it with your connections, meaning people you are already connected to, as well as people who are not connected with you as well, right? Because you get some exposure. So when you post content, you're going to get people, who like the stuff and they, you find you interesting. They're going to directly reach out to you. They're going to go on your profile and they might send you a message, a connection request, and they may want to talk. On the other end, right, you're also at the same time connecting with people on LinkedIn. So when you connect with somebody, you guys are connected. So they have a high likelihood of seeing your content. And so if you sent them, a message and they didn't respond, and then they see this, and then later on you send another message, the second message might get a higher conversion rate because they engage with your content. And that's familiarity, right? Because the more you see someone, the more you feel familiar with them, and then your outbound prospecting will be more effective compared to if you just did outbound prospecting without posting any content. So let me go ahead and show you how this is going to work. So generating inbound leads on LinkedIn specifically. So you create content on LinkedIn. Okay, that's step number one. Step number two is, the content is discovered by prospects. So like I said before, people you already connected to, right? And again, if you connected to hundreds of people that you want to do business with, they are going to be the people that see your content on LinkedIn because you guys are already connections. And LinkedIn will say, okay, Patrick knows all these people. Let's just put this content in front of all of his connections. Additionally, LinkedIn is going to try to find people who are not connected to you and also give you more exposure to complete strangers that may want to connect with you, okay? Now, so number three is the prospect themselves, after they see the content and if it's engaging, they are going to go on your profile and reach out to you. And when they reach out to you, that is called an inbound lead because they are interested in what you have to offer. From there, if they do reach out to you, you're going to send them a direct message back, and then you're going to schedule a time to talk to see if it makes sense to work together. And that's how you generate inbound leads. Now, in other scenarios, let's say you create content is discovered by your prospects, whether they're connected or not connected. And let's say the prospect engages with the content, right? So let's say they liked it, or they left a comment or something like that. And you can see exactly who's liking by their personal individual profile. So you can click on who liked my picture or who liked my post, and you can see them. And then from there, you go on their profile. If you are already connected with them, you send them a direct message. If you're not connected with them, you will connect with them, and then you will send a direct message, as you can see, right? So essentially, it goes by two ways. Either they're going to connect with you, right? And they're going to send you a message, or they see your content, they engage with it, and then you have to kind of reach out to them. So it's a middle ground between inbound and outbound because they first have to do this step, which is see your content and engage with it before you reach out to them. So it's not completely cold because they know who you are because they liked your post. Now, that's the inbound way to do it. Now we're going to talk about the outbound way of doing it, right? So like you guys know, when it comes to outbound LinkedIn generation, how it's going to work is you send a connection request, you send the first message, a couple of days later, you send a second one, and then the third one, and then if you want to keep going, then you send, however message it takes to get the meeting, right? So when it comes to, what exactly does LinkedIn content do? What is social selling all about when you're using this strategy? Because if you're using this strategy, well, there's no content necessary, right? You're just basically sending everybody messages. Well, here's what happens. When you send a connection request, the prospect will be more likely to see your LinkedIn content. Like I said before, when you are connected with people, they are the people that see your content, right? Because you're connections, you're friends. And so LinkedIn will show them the content. From there, what's going to happen is when the prospect sees the content, they are going to reach out to you. They're going to be like, oh, Patrick sent me a message on this day, but I didn't respond. And then I see this video he posted up, and that's really interesting. And I want to learn more about that. And if the prospect reaches out to you, then, you can go ahead and talk through LinkedIn messages and then schedule a meeting. Now, additionally, if the prospect does not reach out to you and you're posting content, well, what's going to happen is, let's say you send the first message, right? And let's say later on they don't respond, you create this content that they see. When you send message number 2, because they have already seen this content, they're more likely to respond to message number 2 or message number 3 because you're not a complete stranger and you're basically putting up marketing material to show that, hey, this is what I do. This is the value I provide. If you're interested, let's talk, right? And so now when they're receiving message number 2, they're like, oh, I kind of seen this guy, Patrick, his content was pretty good. It kind of was relevant. Let me see what he, has to offer, and you'll book a meeting, right? So basically, when you use that strategy, your LinkedIn messages may have a higher conversion rate. Additionally, if the content's really good and there's a good call to action, the prospect may be like, oh, wow, this is exactly what I need. Let me go ahead and reach out to Patrick right now, right? And then you send they'll send you a direct message, and that's how you generate that lead. So as you can see, you cannot always rely on just prospects seeing your content and reaching out to you because sometimes they do, most of the times they actually don't. You have to supplement, you have to combine these strategies together for the most effectiveness. And basically you're relying on the top part. You're relying on these outbound messages, and you're using social selling as a way to build your brand and familiarity and position yourself as a thought leader to increase the odds that they respond. So like I was saying before, the goal of creating content on LinkedIn is to get in front of your prospects and build familiarity with you and your company. If they engage with your LinkedIn content, whether it's liking, commenting, things like that, Well, it's easier for you to start a conversation because you are not a stranger, right? And, I can tell you from personal experience that, the more people see you online, the more likely they are to respond. That's just how it is. And when you do other outbound activities, whether it's cold email or cold calling, and you know that they saw your content and they liked it, well, they kind of know who you are, right? So they'll be like, so if I reach out to somebody, they'll be like, oh, Patrick's that, sales influencer, or he's that sales trainer who posts his content on LinkedIn and YouTube and things like that. So they already have an idea of who I am, right? And so that's all you're really doing with social selling. You're not trying to be an influencer. You're not trying to go viral. You're just trying to connect with people, build familiarity. And if they kind of know who you are and you reach out to them, your chances of them responding are higher than they would be if you're a complete stranger and they don't know anything about you. And a quick warning when it comes to social selling: just do not rely on prospects reaching out to you to generate meetings, right? So if you're watching this, you're probably a salesperson or business development, right? And you're not really a full-time content marketer, most likely. So your job is not to generate meetings with content. Your job is to generate meetings with sales, right? And social selling is a way to help increase your conversion rates. So don't expect people to come to you. You got to go to them, even if you're creating good content. Unless you're a full-time content creator or have a content team, I would focus still on connecting with your ideal customer profile on LinkedIn, sending them a connection request, and then nurturing those connections with content to get them warmed up. Your content really should just be providing educational value. You're not really selling anything. You're not, always saying like, book a meeting with me on your content. It's just more like providing value, building familiarity to increase the conversion rates when you do actually send the meetings, okay? So remember, you are doing sales. You're not a content marketer, most likely. So focus on sales and generating meetings, and use social selling as a way to supplement, okay? Keyword is supplement. Do not 100% rely on it. Supplement your sales activity with social selling. And so with that said, that is it for the high-level overview of LinkedIn social selling. And let's go ahead and dive into the next section.